So yeah, we decided we were going to talk about a little bit about the tone on the record and some of what you hear. It's actually about 4 years ago, almost to the day. Dear friend of mine, Tony Palacios, who used to play with a fantastic Christian rock band called Guardian. Some of you watching this may be like, oh yeah, I remember them. But he also played with Michael W. Smith back in the early 90s. And Tony's just a fantastic guitar player. And kind of God's gunslinger, as I like to refer to him. But Tony and I had been in touch on Facebook, and just happened one day, and he said, hey, by the way, these guitars that I'm endorsing now, they're made up in your backyard. And so I called him and we got to talking. He's like, yeah, do you know where Antigo, Wisconsin is? I'm like, oh my goodness. So Tony actually introduced me to a dear, who is now a dear friend and brother, my buddy Rick. And Rick was, he had just moved into the area and had an opportunity as a luthier, having been a longtime luthier at a store down in South Carolina. He had moved back to the area for family, and due to a tragedy in a young man's life and a young guitar player, Rick had an opportunity to build a guitar for this young man, and through that experience, it actually turned into an opportunity for Rick to build a couple more guitars for some artists such as Disciple and Seventh Day Slumber, and then all of a sudden Jody Davis from the Newsboys came along, and Tony Palacios was a big spearhead in that whole process and journey. And Tony said to me, he says, hey, you know what? Call those guys and tell them I sent you. And so it was about 4 years ago that I began my relationship with Rick and Bob and all the guys up there at Zane Guitars. And this one right here, actually, interestingly enough, is my own hand-built. I actually got to build this and shape the neck and the whole bit. But this is actually a Tony Palacios signature model, which I am really incredibly blessed to be able to play and call my own. In fact, it has Tony's signature on it, but it also has my dad's initials on here, which is really special because my dad, when I was in high school, my dad helped me build my first electric guitar. So this was kind of, to be able to build this, I wanted to have a little kind of tribute to that. So but these things are 100% made in America, made in Wisconsin, locally attained woods. This is roasted bird's eye maple, and you can kind of see it doesn't have like a real clear finish on it, because if you've been around guitars long enough, you know that some of the best guitars just have a really natural raw finish to them. It's really your skin oils that get in there. This one does have a Graphtec Floyd Rose on it. I love Floyd Rose systems. I've been using them pretty much as long as I've been playing guitar. And then obviously a rosewood fingerboard. And this is alder with a kind of a tobacco sunburst on it. And really the key secret to the tone of my guitars is Rio Grande pickups, and that's what we use in all the Zane guitars. And you have Rio Grande single coils and a humbucker, and that's pretty much this guitar is really kind of my go-to that I use in the studio a lot, as well on stage. It's very versatile, where I can get that real deep kind of classic AC/DC sound, and then I can go to Eric Clapton or John Mayer, if you will. So this is really, I think of all the tracking sessions, I think this is a guitar that we use the most. And I think of like a riff like Scars. Where I spent most of that, and what I do is kind of just back off the volume knob a little bit, and then when we went to the solo, and I just actually rewrote the solo right there. I kind of zoomed off a little bit, but that was pretty much right in the area of where we were. And that was just a case of just rolling that volume all the way up. A great guitar will always give you a little bit of clarity when you roll off the volume knob. And then when you go full on, you have all that nice sustain and gain. So as far as the effects go, and the amp, I am a very kind of classic gain, classic rock kind of guy. This is actually a modified Marshall. This is an old Marshall. I don't exactly know what model it was that was in here, but I do know what's in here now. The heart and the guts of it is made by Splawn Amplification down in Dallas, North Carolina. And Scott Splawn and his team there, they have been perfecting the art of Marshall Plexi amps for a very long time. And this is actually called The Competition by Splawn. It is a very, what I would say, a classic dirty amp. It really, it doesn't do like the Fender Clean thing. It's a very much a little Jimi Hendrix. You can hear it's got a little bit of grind in there, and it can also get very, very dirty if you want. But for what I do, I like to kind of leave it as clean as possible, and then what I do is I just kind of use a couple of pedals. I have a compressor from McCaffrey Audio, the Reactor Compressor Boost, and that just gives me a little bit of grit that I want, that I can always kind of clean up with the volume knob. And then if I really want to take this into soaring lead tones, so you can kind of see, I like to use this. Now this looks like a standard Boss DS1 distortion, but this is actually a custom pedal that was made for me by the guys at Steve McKinley Electronics, and it's their Plexi mod, as they like to call it. And so I use that just mainly for solos in there. I obviously have the channel switcher for the Splawn amp, and it actually gives me a little bit of volume boost if I want that, which is really cool. But as far as effects go, I'm really kind of a, I don't get real crazy. I kind of like to keep it in the pocket. The visual sound, dual tap delay, is what I use for, I use channel 2 for my straight quarter note delay and repeats. And then if I'm playing like a worship gig where I want to get a little, a little bit of that U2 kind of. So you kind of get the idea, and that can get real big and real spacious, and then just some reverb. And I really don't go into any kind of crazy amounts of reverb, just something to make this sound a little bit more open, a little more wide and spacious. So what you're hearing there, what you're seeing there, is pretty much what we did on the record, and pretty happy with how that turned out. But as far as these guitars go, I do have to tell you guys, I'm just tickled pink and blown away all these years later that God blessed me with a group of guys that just really cared about craftsmanship and tone and just quality of build. These guitars, to me, play like nothing else. And I have owned just about every great guitar out there. I've had the Fender Strats. I've had a Gibson Les Paul and Paul Reed Smith and Tom Anderson and Jackson guitars. These guys, for me, and you can kind of see, I have a kind of a little small collection of these things. This thing right here is it's called a Prodigy, and it's pretty much a mahogany body with a maple cap, and kind of does the telly thing real nice. But it's got again, Rio Grande pickups. It's got a coil tap that will allow me to go from like a true telly single coil to a full-on bridge humbucker. And right behind me here, this is kind of my pride and joy. It is pink in honor of a family member who is a survivor of breast cancer. And this is actually a custom build from the guys at Zane. And that's actually probably, I play that one live the most. And then obviously this one, the Tony Palacio signature Strat, which I was blessed to be able to build up at their shop. And I really love using this one, especially for the studio sessions. It just really gives me everything that I'm kind of going for. The cool story behind that one, that was one of two guitars that we actually built for Sean Tubbs. And if you don't know who Sean is, he plays for this this girl. She was on American Idol at one time. I think her name's Carrie something. Carrie, she's like lives down in Nashville or something.
Talking about Carrie Underwood?
Yeah, that's her name. Yeah. So, yeah, wow. Holy cow. So, yeah, we built that one actually for Sean to take out on tour with Carrie. And, well, he graciously decided on the other guitar that we sent him. And so they gave me that one. And I have another two over there that, I didn't have enough wall hangers. So, but I have 6 from the guys at Zane. And it lets me pretty much cover just about anything. And it lets me hand 1 or 2 over to Seth, who would play guitar for me on stage. And this way he gets to play a few. So, plenty to go around. But super thankful for those guys. And yeah. So that's the story behind Zane and my tone. And so if you guys are looking for great tone, great guitars, Splon amplification, Zane guitars, and I'll just tell you, for me personally, the real big kind of common denominator Really the reason that I made a move to these guys at Zane is Rick and Bob are both born again believers, and they share the heart and the passion for ministry through music, and so it was kind of a no-brainer. Scott and Dal, same thing. These guys are both believers, and man, they just put excellence as unto the Lord into everything that they do. So that's why I'm proud to endorse both of these companies, and I'm just really happy and pleased with the tones that we've been able to get, both in the studio and live on stage. So feel free to check them out. ZaneGuitars.com, SpawnAmplification.com.